This thing started. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name's Tony. Welcome everybody to Keystone Big Book Study Workshop with a program of recovery laid out by the first 100 men and women. Our basic text. How we open this meetings with a serenity prayer. What do we need for a good meeting, Katie? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So we do an in-depth dive into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which we understand is the program of recovery laid out in the first portion. We're going to go through how precisely they have recovered. We're going to gather some information in regards to step 1 and 2 as the collective understanding and try to get a better grip on what they mean by that in order to make a decision when we get to 3. So basically, this is basic text, and what we do is we go through it, and we kind of, in a lot of ways, you find the stuff that we read in here and the stuff we hear in meetings is two different things. And so sometimes we have worksheets for guys people who are going through it, and they're really conflicted when they're doing the worksheets because they're looking for the answers they think it says instead of the answers the book says. So a lot of us got taught what the book says instead of reading what it says. So what we try to do is go through the book as it's laid out, being a basic text. We read some highlights. It's your job to go through it. And what we do is we hit some highlights to see if you're picking up what they're putting down, getting a grasp. We're learning certain terminology. We're building on these ideas on the perimeter of conversation. So as we move along, we kind of follow along. So Katie, who are you?
Hi, I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name's Katie.
Katie, she's my partner in crime. We kind of go through this thing. So, we've been covering quite a bit of information, and you can go back over and go on to YouTube and get caught up if you're just joining us. And right away, we just dispel some of the misinformation we hear in the fellowship. We hear right from the title page. It talks about the story of how many thousands of men and women who have recovered from alcoholism. That's the whole point of the book, right? Is the idea to show us that there may be or possibly, or we're hoping that we can grasp the idea that there may be a solution to the ailment that we may be suffering from or somebody we know that's suffering. Preface talks about this is a basic text, and it also talks about the program of recovery is found in the first portion of this thing. Then we get to the forward of the first edition. It talks about who put this together, and it talks about precisely how they had recovered is the main purpose of this book. So, it's not open to interpretation. You hear a lot of people say it's open to interpretation. Well, it isn't. They're talking about their experience, and they're sharing it with us, the reader, right? Then we get into the doctor's opinion, where they talk about their overview on the problem. And it was 1933 when he talked about this patient going to his facility for the third time. And he gives an overview on their experience with this patient the third time, having acquired certain ideas that he put into practice. And he recovered from this thing. And the doctors were quite amazed with what took place in his facility, allowing him then in turn to work with other people, which is pretty wild when you think about it in 1934, right? It's pretty, and that is I believe in the book suggests the beginning of the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous unfolding. They talk about that we may have found a remedy, right, for thousands of cases that were outside their scope. Right, so we see this book is put together for people who are like us. So we need to figure out whether we are like these people or not like these people, because they're a special breed of people that seem to be outside the scope of medical aspects and other people. Right, a lot of people try to work with us, but we're a hard group of people to work with. I know you find that surprising. And the doctor even kind of referred to some of our thinking as maladjusted, full-fledged from reality, and downright mental defectives. Not one of us have ever thought that, but the people around us would take a vote and say, all in favor? Yeah. Looking back, I'm really surprised any of us have survived dust, right? Really? Needing some form of intervention that the doctor talked about. And what's interesting is he talks about in nearly all cases their ideas must be grounded in a power greater than themselves. So that's how we're starting. We're getting certain ideas, we're getting certain information, we're going to make decisions based on that as we go along. And he talks about the messes that help these people recreate their life have to have depth and weight. Right? And so if you ever thought of a big ocean liner in the harbor, anybody ever see a big ocean liner in the harbor?
Yep.
Which is really interesting. I thought it was the anchor that held them in place. It's not actually the anchor, it's the chain. Depth and weight. The weight of the chain along the bottom of the stops the ship from moving, which is pretty wild. So this message has to have depth and weight if these people are to recreate their lives. Then they talk about basically the step one promise, right? That they continue to drink even though they don't want to drink, right? And he kind of touches base on that, but he really gets into the allergy part. And you hear a lot of people talk about, they mention the obsession in the doctor's opinion. They actually don't talk about the obsession at all in the doctor's opinion. What they talk about, something takes place in their mind and they find themselves drinking again. And this is repeated over and over. These people don't want to drink and they find themselves drinking again. Then he talks about the case that until these people experience an entire psychic change, there's very little hope of their recovery. And he went on to talk about two different cases that became sold on the ideas contained in this book. So Bill expanded on that. We'll get into that later. But they seem to have a remedy that kind of hey, we got something here. And they all got together and started working on it. Bill's story is an example of what we were like, what happened, and what we're like now. So we see the overview of that. A lot of people talk about the what happened part as their last drunk hitting bottom or the surrender, something of their own volition. But the what happened part is something that we got access to that created a change in us that we couldn't create in ourselves, a psychic change or spiritual experience. So we've seen in Bill's story his inability to get sober. The third time in treatment, the difference was Ebby walking him through a course of action that Ebby took to have that experience. He's seen it was feasible for him to have that if he did the same thing he did, and we've seen that happen. So what Bill, in essence, without getting too much, he did 6 steps we understand as 12. He expanded on them to make it more palatable. But he talks about entering a relationship with something greater than himself. In other words, he learned a formula that he was able to put into practice in rough going, right? But by getting access to this power that allowed him to have a different experience, where before he would never move past these certain things and ideas. As we've seen in the story, we started to see he had a different grasp or different footing on life based on his relationship with something greater than himself and carrying this message to other people. A lot of people say, read Bill's story to try to find yourself in it. That's not the purpose of Bill's story. What makes you say that? The book will always tell you the purpose of something. How many people find that interesting, being a basic text? They never Shanghai you or lead you down the golden path. Did you want to add anything, Katie?
No, it's awesome.
That was a manic approach there. Okay, for all those, now we're going to slow it right down a bit. A couple new people say, what the hell was that all about? We've covered this in great detail. Huh?
So what you started saying that's not what Bill's story is for. What is Bill's story for then?
Well,
it's myself.
And how it works, right? It talks about what we were like, what happened, and what we're like now. We see that in Bill's story. We've seen what he was like and the inability to create any kind of shift in his life. Then we've seen what happened was a course of action he went through on the basis of certain ideas that the doctor talked about, spiritual principles that enabled him to enter this psychic change or spiritual experience. He learned the spiritual recipe of practicing these principles in all our affairs, not these steps, these principles, right? And then he was able to have a different experience going forward. The people around him were slow to change, but he was able to change, right? The people around him stayed skeptical for a long period of time. So it took the people around him a little while to experience the promises. Bill was kind of been engaged, depressed, and he suffered from the human element after that, not alcoholism, right? Which is the huge thing, which we'll get into later. So there is a solution. What page we got? Page 17. If you have any questions or anything, write them down. And after we have a Q&A period, after when the meeting's over, we kind of do that stuff. So they're going to explain to us an overview on what Bill's story was about. Kind of interesting, right? They'll tell us exactly what Bill's story is about in the first paragraph. So it kind of makes you wonder, all these people who say, read it and find yourself, have they actually gone through this book themselves? And the people say, we don't recover. How it works talks about those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. So either they haven't done it yet, or they haven't gone through it yet, or they're still waiting. Okay, so here we go. Page 17. What does the first paragraph say?
Okay, page 17, there is a solution. We of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill.
So did we see that in Bill's story?
Yep.
The hopelessness of his feet. And we see, where did that start from? The doctor's opinion, right? That he tried to work with all these cases that were beyond their scope of helping. There was a lot of people, they were able to help, treatment centers, outside help, and all. We see they're very successful with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But the doctor says he's never been successful with our type of people. What type of people? The people that put the book together. You notice this is not the doctor's program of recovery.
No.
They had one. This is put together by us, for us, right? Because we're a unique kind of breed of people, right? I would say so myself. Any okay, so go ahead.
That's a word for it.
So
okay. Do you want me to keep going?
Yep.
Maddie does too. Nearly all have recovered.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So we see in the hopeless feature, nearly all have recovered. Did we see that part in Bill's story where he had this profound psychic change or spiritual experience? Who else witnessed that? Was the doctor. The doctor witnessed it. And so in those board meetings, they would have discussions about, hey, you know what this, remember that guy that we kind of was beyond human aid? He was coming back here for the third time, and we kind of deemed him as the hopeless variety. He acquired certain ideas. It's pretty profound what happened to him. He wants to work with other people. So based on this, yeah, let's like, when you think about that, it's pretty wild, right? Cool. Okay, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Nearly all have recovered. They have solved the drink problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are average Americans, all sections of this country, and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, social, and religious backgrounds. We're people who normally would not mix.
I misunderstood that. That's why it's good to have sponsorship. I wasn't well when I got here. I know a lot of you people may find that surprising, but you know, the cheese and cracker were not on the same plate when I got here. They were not even in the same time zone. How I heard things and interpret things was way different than people who were explaining it. My sponsor used to say, how did you hear that? I hear what? He says, we're normally people that would not mix. I said, I don't mix either. I drink it straight. He says, that's not what they mean. They said we're normally people that would not hang around. And so they covered all these different aspects of all these different people, social backgrounds, economics, all that, money, prestige, whatever you want, that we all kind of end up here together. So what's the one thing that all these people have in common?
They can't stop drinking. They can't stay stopped.
Yeah, that's the one thing. And what's the only way you could find out if you have that?
You try.
You gotta drink. You hear people say, I was an alcoholic before I drank. Well, then you must misunderstand alcoholism.
Yeah.
You may have had the human condition before you found a drink, but alcohol reveals the problem. It doesn't cause it.
What do you always say to me? All those behavioral issues, those don't make you an alcoholic. That makes you an asshole.
I don't talk like that anymore.
Yeah, you don't talk to me like that anymore. You don't, not very often.
I can't believe you talk like that. No, that's good. Taking the heat off of me. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. But there exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness and an understanding, which is indescribably wonderful.
Yeah, not a program, a fellowship. We come into a fellowship. If you're still describing it as a program, you're misinforming new people and you're misinformed. But if that's your program, is just don't drink and go to meetings, then you should clarify that. My program is, I just don't drink, go to meetings, put the plug in the jug, think it through, let it go, read page 417 every day, surrender, and all that other stuff until I get my next 24-hour chip. But so far, so good.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah,
and that works for some people.
100 until it don't, right?
For the people that don't. Mm-hmm. We are like the passengers of a great liner the moment after rescue from shipwreck. When camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessel from steerage to captain's table. Unlike the feelings of the ship's passengers, however, our joy in escape from disaster does not subside as we go in our individual ways. The feeling of having shared in a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us. But that in itself would have never held us together as we are now joined.
So you hear people say step one, it's a we program, step one. That's not what holds us together. Right? That's like a bad relationship, saying this bad relationship holds me together in it. I got to stay to see the outcome. Well, you know the outcome. No, but maybe. Right? That's not what keeps you in there. Okay, go ahead.
The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution.
Okay, so the tremendous fact for every one of us, not some of us, every one of us, that we have discovered a common solution. So is that a collective experience or singular? Collective, right? All the way through here, they're talking about collective. Their experience is collective on what the problem is, what the solution is, and the course of action. They're all in agreement of what that is. If I'm outside that understanding, then I'm going to argue with something that's one-sided. Why do you say it's one-sided? Because if you knew what we were talking about, you wouldn't be arguing. You're arguing with your understanding, not ours. What makes you think I'm not arguing with your understanding? Because we all agree on it.
Yeah, you don't even understand.
Right? Yeah.
You don't understand our understanding.
Yeah.
Understand?
So,
all right.
Okay.
We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree, and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
Which is pretty cool. So without even realizing it, the moment you get this in the mail or somebody gives it to you, it's the beginning of step 2 without even realizing it. Right? It's the beginning of maybe of obtaining some information that might change the course of my life. So as we go over the next page, page 18, we hope.
Second paragraph. We hope this volume will inform and comfort those who are or who may be affected. There are many. Highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss his situation without reserve. Strangely enough, wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable than do the psychiatrist and the doctor.
Why is that? Because they're asking us questions we don't know the answer to.
Yeah. It's
irritating. Why do you do that? I don't know. Why are you doing it again? You promised. Where's the rent? Right? Like, excuse, like you ask, the best way to get an alcoholic to stop lying, anybody want to know a secret? Stop asking them questions. They don't even know they're lying. They're trying to make sense of something that don't make sense, right? So, go ahead. Squiggly writing, does that mean something?
Always, yeah. Bill repeats himself a lot. I think he knows we don't listen well.
What?
So anything he says once is important. He says it twice, it's really important. 3 times, really squiggly writing, really important.
Okay, so we better skip over it.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. But the ex-problem drinker who has found this solution.
Okay, we're gonna break it down. Yeah. This solution, not a solution. This solution is the common understanding, right? So when all these people, thousands of people have been through this, if you heard them in meetings, would they all kind of sound the same? 100% they'd be carrying this message, not a message. Big difference, right? But the ex-problem drinker who has found this solution, who is what?
Who is properly armed with the facts about himself.
And that's what we're learning here, the same information that they have and this collective understanding of what the problem is. And also what the solution is and why is it they can't be their own solution. They'll get into all that, armed with facts about themselves, which is step 1. Right? When I fully understand step 1, then I'll know why everything I have been doing thus far hasn't been working. Right? Because it's not a behavioral problem. It's an illness, but I don't know the nature of the illness because I sit in meetings, listen to the person that makes the most sense, usually the stuff that I like to hear, because the people that are talking stuff that I don't like to hear, they disturb me. Don't listen to them and don't get them to share. They're going to talk about the book again. Anybody here with a problem? No, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, who is properly armed with the facts about himself can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours.
That's interesting, the few hours. There's timetables all the way through this book when you learn to read it, right? And it's interesting, is one of the things that I just go places, like I meditate before the meeting, and people read parts of the book and they say, oh, by this time, sanity will have a return. This is the 10-step program, or this is the 9th. It doesn't say that anywhere. It's read about in step 10 or step 9. When they say by this time, what time? There's a time outlaid in the book when you could expect these things, their experience, to be happening in your life. But if you don't know how to look at what they're saying, you'll go by what other people say, and it's a misleading understanding, right? So when they talk about here a few hours, where was the first timeline of that? Was when Ebby was sitting with Bill. My friends, they sat for hours going over things, right? Hours. Why does it take hours for us? Because we don't listen too well. The resistance is strong. Because we're too busy thinking about a rebuttal as people are talking. Can you participate in the saving of your own life? Can you join in? I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished.
Accomplished is the obtaining of this change that's necessary to bring about long-term recovery. People mistaken abstinence for this recovered part, or being no longer afflicted with this illness, right? Abstaining and experiencing what the book talks about is two different things. If you're sitting in a meeting and you haven't had this experience of being armed with facts about yourself and having an understanding of what they're talking about, you're just in the being going to be rotated out. Because there's lots of people who've sat in a meeting in a chair thinking they're going to be there forever. The chair that you sit in a meeting, there was somebody once there thinking they'd be there forever. Not understanding alcoholism, not understanding that they're about to be rotated out of the fellowship. Why? Because something beyond their understanding is going to take place. So when you understand this thing, we're more effective when we talk with other people or deal with people in meetings, as it asks us to do in working with others. Go ahead.
That the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty.
That's so important. Right? Like, we have a fellowship filled with a lot of different people. It's okay to qualify the person that you're asked to help you if they have a legit drinking history. You have to have a legit drinking history. I know people who were 12-stepping people who were not even alcoholic. They had a profound knowledge of the book, but they weren't, right? How can you have a depth and knowledge of something that you haven't experienced?
Yeah.
Big difference, right? And if you're 12-stepping other people, anyways, I'll leave that alone. Next page. Page 19. We have, back up. They're talking about 12-step work here and going on. If we keep on the way we are going, everybody there?
Yeah, middle of page 19. If we keep on the way we are going, there's little doubt that much good will result. But the surface of the problem would hardly be scratched. Those of us who live in large cities are overcome by the reflection that close by hundreds are dropping into oblivion every day.
And you know what the scary thing is? That's happening within our own fellowship. We don't have to go outside of our fellowship. There are thousands of people coming here looking for a solution to a problem they don't understand. They all think they have a behavioral problem, and they're mistaken feeling better for getting better, and they're approaching this with the idea that they could be their own solution, stay on guard, and they leave with the misinformation that maybe they're not armed with facts about themselves. They're reading page 417 every day, letting go, getting Lululemon pants, burning incense, and getting gym memberships, and and relationships and new jobs. The promises are coming true. Man, my life's fantastic. You know, I had a back problem, and guess who's coming back?
Yeah.
Right? Reading Drop the Rock, picking up the rock. Oh my God, they're smoking rock. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed.
Many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed. Just because they're in the meeting, sitting in the fellowship, doesn't mean they've had the opportunity we have enjoyed. What are they talking about? Is this course of action? They've had the practical experience of going through it, like we're reading here, those that put this together since thousands, right? What they were like, what happened was this, through a course of action, they entered a relationship that created a psychic change or spiritual experience, and they were able to be anchored in something other than themselves, what the doctor talked about. They had a psychic change or spiritual experience. I spent 11 years in and out of the fellowship thinking I was in a program, and then when I actually got approached by those with whom the problem had been solved, I got conned into a big book study, and I went through this kicking and screaming. Right, so 11 years. My last relapse, I had over 360 meetings in 90 days. After 11 years, I'm in 4, 12, and 12 studies. I get a 3-month chip in my pocket, and life's fantastic. Life's great. An hour later, I'm drinking.
Wow.
Right, so when these guys got a hold of me and started walking with me without my permission, consent, and they started focusing on trying to save my life and trying to get me to participate in it. I thought there was something the matter with them. And they saved my life. They conned me into a big book study. They got me into this thing as we're doing now. They took me through it. And I'm in my 37th year. Must be something to this, right? It talks about many could recover if they have the opportunity we have enjoyed. Have you enjoyed this?
It's been a trip. It's definitely been enjoyable.
I mean, if it works for Ray, it works for... I mean, it can't be that hard, can it? We're all a shooting, right? So sometimes we think it's so. Take a look at the meetings. Look around at me. It can't be that difficult. Look at what God's working with. It can't be that difficult. Like, really, right? There's only 2 groups of people we see. The ones who are sober and AA, and the other group, like us, are as pre-trial. Okay, go ahead.
How then shall we present which has been so freely given us? We have concluded to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem as we see it.
As who sees it?
As they see it.
Not the doctor, as they see it. They're all talking like, hey, you know what? We seem to be different than these people. There's something fundamentally different about us than these other people.
Yeah.
They're having a conversation. What's your experience? Well, this is my experience. That's your. It's like, hey, we seem to have a lot going on here that's different than these other people. Mm-hmm. Right? So how should we put our experience together so it doesn't get garbled, changed, and misconstrued, and that we could maybe in turn help those that was freely who helped us? Mm-hmm. So I'm not writing a book. These people who write books in AA, nothing wrong with that, but when you start peddling in AA, like back to basics, and start thinking it's AA, then you're in trouble. These books, these outside issues, all that other stuff, they may help them, but if you've been through this and had the experience of this, there's nothing more responsible for us to do than to carry this message. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the first thing we should be offering new people who come into our fellowship. Say, hey, this is a big book. It describes the problem. It describes the solution they found and the course of action they take. If you want to know more about this possible illness you may be or not be afflicted with, or somebody you know is afflicted with, why don't you read this through? If you have any questions, I'm available to you. Mm-hmm. That's our responsibility. Mm-hmm. To people it covers the first tradition, covers the first 5th tradition, because the first thing a new person experiences coming into the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous is the traditions and our singleness of purpose if you're in a responsible group. But enough out of me. Okay, go ahead.
We have commenced to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem as we see it. We shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge. Experience,
right? And knowledge. They go hand in hand.
This should suggest a useful program for anyone concerned with a drinking problem.
I don't know if I have a drinking problem, but I have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
How many people sat in a meeting and thought of all their problems they had? Drinking wasn't one of them because I'm sober now. So it can't be. It's been a week. I got some serious problems. Drinking isn't one of them. I'm wondering how this works as they're reading how it works. How many people's done that here? Or, okay, I could look on the wall and whoever makes the most sense in explaining something that takes a whole, 5 chapters to do, I can figure out in half an hour because I'm a genius type mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so next page, let's go here. You may have asked yourself, page 20. Here's that self-talk. You may have asked yourself.
You may have already asked yourself why it is that all of us became so very ill from drinking.
Or why I have so many problems, right? Let's not get carried away, right? I'm a little jaundiced, but I don't know if I'm ill. Unemployable. Cut my own hair. Cheese and cracker on the same plate. My own evaluation of me is a bit of a hard time here, but I'm going to be all right? Okay, go ahead.
Always optimistic.
Always optimistic. I have a friend in Montreal that still has money. Right? Remember that in Bill's story?
Of course. Doubtless you are curious to discover how and why, in the face of expert opinion to the contrary, we have recovered.
Well, what's the matter with this book? How many times are they going to go on about recovered here? So these people say we're always recovering or we don't recover. They just told you they haven't been through this or they're different than us. Because if you're like us and you like them and you're afflicted with the same illness, the idea that the only thing that's going to save you from you is an entire psychic change that we can't bring about ourselves, then it seems like I want to be recovered. How many people want to go on with this illness every day hoping and praying today's not the day I go back out again, or to be free of this thing?
Free of it.
I want to be free of it. I don't want to wake up every morning with untreated alcoholism. I should be going to Al-Anon then. Because untreated is the person I'm with. I can't afford it, right? Anyways, go ahead.
Okay. Doubtless you are curious to discover how and why, in the face of expert opinion to the contrary, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body.
How many symptoms?
2.
So when they're going to surprise us with a 3-symptom idea, they're not. 2 symptoms in alcoholism, right? And very important to see that as we go along why that is. Okay, go ahead.
And this isn't the only time he said it. He said it a lot already, and he'll say it again a lot more because he knows we don't listen well.
What?
He says he repeats body and mind over again.
Okay, go ahead.
If you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do? It is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically.
Not in a roundabout way. Specifically, they're using strong language here. Precisely earlier, right? Many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed. The main purpose of this book is to show others alcoholics how we have recovered. Man, they're using strong language here, right? Isn't that interesting, the language that they use here? No wiggle room in it, right? Okay.
We shall tell you what we have done. Before going into a detailed discussion, it may be well to summarize some points as we see them.
So this is good. I do this with, like, the book doesn't say to do it. I do this with the people I work with and people in the studies, okay? So we're going to have, how many people got their book with them and a pen? Let's ask ourselves some questions to see where we fall into. Ready? Okay, let's get ready. Pen and paper. Let's go.
Okay. How many times have people said to us, I can take it or leave it alone? Why can't he?
Oh, how many people have said that to us? Mm-hmm. Okay, yep. People have said that to me. Has it changed anything? Nope. But I stopped talking to them. I guess that's the change. Okay, go ahead.
Why don't you drink like a gentleman or quit?
How does a gentleman drink? Well, we don't get into trouble. And you don't hit on other people's wives. Okay. I can maybe do that.
That fellow can't handle his liquor. Why don't you try beer and wine?
How many people, anybody get told that here? Why don't you try something else, though, other than what you're doing? I had other friends that suggested other things, but we're going to leave that alone for now. We're not supposed to talk about methamphetamine here. Move on.
Yeah. That's why alcohol's supposed to put you to sleep, so that you stop causing problems.
You mean that stuff on that mirror helps you stay up longer and drink more? Okay.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Okay. His willpower must be weak. He could stop if he wanted to. She's such a sweet girl, I should think he'd stop for her sake. The doctor told him if he ever drank again, it would kill him. But there he is, all lit up again.
You hear this in meetings. People try to shame and guilt us. You're coming back. Thanks for going out with us. And they try, what about your kids? What about your job? I know all those things before I went out the last time. I want to know why I'm having this experience in spite of everything I have to live for. Bill, being of good earning potential, had the potential of living a pretty awesome life, but he wasn't able to because he was afflicted with an illness. Right? I'm in conflict with myself. I'm talking to something. Why am I doing this? And I don't know why I'm doing this. Right? Many times I've looked in the mirror. What's the matter with you? And wait for an answer. Anybody? Maybe just me. No. Long pause. What's the matter with you? Nothing coming.
There's a lot of people living up there anyway.
Yeah, all want to take turns. You're an asshole.
No, None of them know. None of them have the answer. Though.
No, that's it.
Okay, now these are commonplace observations of drinkers which we hear all the time. Back of them is a world of ignorance and misunderstanding.
Ignorance means they don't understand the nature of the affliction of the person who is having a different experience than them. They don't understand it. But if they understood alcoholism, then they wouldn't ask them stupid questions. They already know why they can't stay sober. They already know why they're relapsing. They already know they're going to relapse. So their job is just 12-step them and arm them, give them some information, get that conversation happening to see you know all about the drinking game that used to be like them, and you're no longer experiencing what they're experiencing. Then they'll ask you, how do you achieve that? Well, come walk with me. Let's go to this study. I don't like that guy. It doesn't matter if you don't like him. He loves you. He's happy to see you. He's going to smile. Anyways, right, Katie? Okay, go ahead.
So we see that these expressions refer to people whose reactions are very different from ours. Moderate drinkers have little trouble giving up liquor entirely if they have good reason for it.
So how many people has had good reason for giving it up and you never gave it up?
Yeah.
So that's not you. Just put a no there. Not me. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Maybe you're in the next category. Go ahead.
You're a hard drinker. Then we have the certain type of hard drinker. He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair him physically and mentally. It may cause him to die a few years before his time. If a sufficiently strong reason, ill health, falling in love, change of environment, or the warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate.
Oh, good. How many people has had those things were able to stop?
No.
Job, relationship. Okay, how many people were able to moderate?
For a short time.
Yeah, that would be a no there. Let's rationalize our answer. It's yes or no.
No.
Well, I did good once. When? Okay. So we asked the people.
Celebrated the next day.
That's right. Should we ask the people around you? Sure. You have to get personal, right? Okay. So we got no. So then where am I? Where would I fall in? Let's see.
What about the real alcoholic?
Oh, so they're going to explain. You hear people say, they're real alcoholic. The book explains why it's important to understand what a real alcoholic is, because a heavy drinker looks like an alcoholic, sounds like an alcoholic, but given good reason, they could stop or moderate. We've had good reason. We haven't been able to stop or moderate, right? We think we have because I got 3 months before, 2 years before. The key word was before. Mm-hmm. Anything starts with before, you just nil and void. right? If you're going to build my house, I want to know that all the houses you've built so far are still standing. This one's not bad. This one's been up a year now. Well, what about the one before it? Not so good. We're not talking about that right now. Okay.
Exactly.
So we're going to go through this. You read it. And then they talk about, here on the next page, this book has some humor, right? And it takes a little while to catch it, right? And as more you go through it, the more you see this humor stuff. You don't catch it the first couple times. It says, why does he behave like this? Everybody there on page 22? Let's see if we can see the humor in this. Why does he behave like this?
Okay, middle of the page. Why does he behave like this? If hundreds of experiences...
Hundreds! Not one or two, hundreds. Well, wait a minute. When you look over the years, how many different experiences late for work, missing work, blowing a paycheck, on and on. People, places, things. How many people's had more than one embarrassing situation? How many people's had hundreds? If you kind of broke them up. I've had so many, I've forgotten 90% of them. The only ones I really remember now is the one really embarrassing ones, the impact ones. Yeah. Right? Okay. How about you, Katie?
Oh, yeah, I've got a couple. We'll save those for another day. My husband's home and he still thinks I'm cool. If hundreds of experiences have shown him that one drink means another debacle with all its attendant suffering and humiliation, why is it he takes that one drink? Why can't he stay on the water wagon? What has become of the common sense and the willpower he still sometimes displays with respect to other matters? Well, perhaps there will never be a full answer to these questions. Opinions vary considerably as to why the alcoholic reacts differently from normal people. We are not sure why, once a certain point is reached, little can be done for him. We cannot answer the riddle. We know that while the alcoholic keeps away from drink, as he may do so for months or years...
There's it. That's the sneaky part. We could, given good reason, sometimes can stay sober for months or years, and we're thinking we're successful. Then we find ourselves without defense against the first drink. That's what we'll find out more about. And then we'll tie excuses to the behavior, right, of picking up again, instead of realizing that either the problem hasn't been removed, it was lying dormant, or we failed to continue our daily reprieve. But the first and only thing that needs to happen for these people is an entire psychic change that I can't produce on my own. And if I was able to have a vital spiritual experience that we'll read about later, then I need to find a way to develop it, maintain it, and keep it, get that recipe that Bill talked about, and it can't be that difficult to incorporate within my life. Right? See, because if it was, AA wouldn't be it's not bad. We're the greatest, one of the biggest fellowships in the world, right? Okay, go ahead.
We know that while the alcoholic keeps away from drink, as he may do so for months or years, he reacts much like other men. We are equally positive that once he takes any alcohol whatever into his system, something happens both in the bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop.
So what's that? Once you put it in your system, what symptom is that?
Allergy.
Yeah, the phenomenon of craving. Anybody have that? Anybody ever try to reason with yourself and your body says, no, I think another one will be fine. And after a couple drinks, you're not even thinking about the fact you're drinking anymore. Am I in the right group? Yep. Then it takes a lot to get our attention again, right? And then when we get our attention, then we come back to AA, remorseful, with a firm resolution not to do it again. And guess what's happening? It's getting ready to do it again. Just because you get a bill and put it in a drawer, it doesn't mean the bill's taken care of. They're producing another one. They're getting a final notice happening, right? So, right? Go ahead.
The experience of any alcoholic will abundantly confirm this. These observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body.
So this is where a lot of people miss the way the book's laid out, because they'll jump ahead to other parts and stuff like that. But the book's making a shift here. It's changing conversation, right? we talked about the allergy, we talked about what it looks like, we talked about the word association, and we got phenomenon of craving, these allergic types, all stem from the first symptom in alcoholism. Here, the transition is, well, if we never took that drink, we never set this terrible cycle in motion. We all agreed on that? So they're saying, well, then there's something else going on here. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind. The doctor referred to that as once this desire happens to him, because if they started talking about this condition before they explained the first condition, most people wouldn't read it anymore. It has to get your attention. So it's gotten my attention on the allergy part. It makes good sense to why I drink the way I drink, but why do I keep on doing these things in spite of me never wanting to do them? Like Bill. Bill saw he could not take so much as one drink. He took a drink. Went to treatment, he saw surely this was the answer, self-knowledge. But it was not. The Friday before day he came, he drank again, right? And then the second time in treatment, he talks about hitting bottom, what he wouldn't do to change, right? He had all these things that, like, the gift of desperation is still desperation without the solution, right? So we see there's no solution to create a change in Bill. So his story remains the same, but the intervals are getting shorter and shorter together, right? He talks about periods of sobriety renewing everybody's hope, right? Anybody like us, right? And then when he got 12-step, which we call 12-step, Ebby showed up in his life, carried him through a course of action, created a change sufficient enough for him to recover from the condition he was afflicted with before going into treatment, where the doctor noticed the difference. Yes? So now they're saying we're going to talk about this main problem that where does it center? They're going to shift conversation here. And what do they say?
The main problem centers in his mind rather than his body. It's a nice way of saying you're mentally ill. I don't know if any of you guys have heard people tell you that. They don't tell you that nicely, except for in this book. Okay, if you ask him why he started on that last bender, the chances are he will offer you one of 100 alibis.
Yeah, why? Because you don't understand alcoholism. So, and how many people has relapsed here, gone to a meeting and tied an excuse to it? If you tie an excuse to it, then it's not beyond my aid. It's just bad management. Give me another chance. I learned my lesson. As soon as you say I learned my lesson, you don't understand alcoholism. The obsession is left. You don't understand alcoholism. If you think you can see, feel, and touch it, then you don't understand alcoholism. They're talking about something that centers in the mind. That's beyond feeling, touching, and seeing. Right? Go ahead.
If you ask him why he started on that last bender, chances are he will offer you any one of 100 alibis. Sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc an alcoholic's drinking bout creates.
True? Mm-hmm. That's what the doctor said, a little maladjusted, full from reality and downright mental defectives. We talk about excuses and make excuses for our drink, and the people around us are going, what? What? You did what? Again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think because we just don't understand. You don't understand, so you try to attach an excuse to it to make it make sense so that you don't feel crazy. Because if you actually look at the reality, like, you're mentally ill. I was mentally ill. I was doing crazy shit, but your brain doesn't want you to believe that, so you tie an excuse to it. Well, I only did it because he did that.
Yeah. You start finding out what everybody already knows.
She's crazy.
She's crazy. Now, right, cheese and cracker not on the same plate. Okay.
Okay, they sound like the philosophy of a man who having a headache beats himself on the head with a hammer so he can't feel the ache. If you draw this fallacious reasoning to the attention of an alcoholic, he will laugh it off or become irritated and refuse to talk. Once in a while, he may tell the truth. And the truth, strange to say, is usually that he has no more idea why he took that first drink than you have.
This is me with the 11 years in and out, just did over 360 meetings a night with a 3-month chip in my pocket. Why did you do that? I had no idea. I gave the best talk that you ever wanted to hear on self-based recovery. It was epic. It was... Yeah, here's your chip. Okay, go ahead.
Some drinkers have excuses which they are satisfied part of the time, but in their hearts they really don't know why they do it. Once this malady has a real hold, they are a baffled lot.
Okay, so we'll stop it there, right?
Okay.
So once this malady is a condition that's present, but they don't really know how to describe it, right? This is, so when they're talking, they're saying, well, this is the characteristics of it. We know this thing is present, has us acting outside of our own will, has us doing things that we don't want to do, and we don't know really how to, we really don't understand it. So malady is a condition that's present that we don't know how to explain. These are the characteristics or the symptoms of it, is that they keep drinking when they don't want to drink, and they don't know why they're doing it. And how the association with that is on a page previous. Perhaps we'll never be full answers to these questions. Opinions may vary considerably as to why the alcoholic reacts different than normal people. We are not sure why. So as soon as they go, well, it's because of the obsession, you're saying you know why these people are, they're saying they don't know why this thing happens in their psyche. There's something that happens in them that once a certain point is reached, little or nothing can be done for him. They're talking about being beyond human aid. Well, why is that? Well, we cannot answer the riddle. Oh no, so I want it to be the obsession, because if it's the obsession, then I can answer it, I can see it, I can feel it, then I can depend on me. They're saying, but if you have this, you can't depend on you. Damn, I don't like that step one. Is there another step one I can feel good about? So, this is interesting. Once this malady has a real hold, they're a baffled lot. Why are they baffled?
Because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because they can't stay sober. Yeah. I've done months or years, and here I am drinking again. Why the hell is this happening? You think Bill was baffled the second time in treatment?
Baffled is a great word, because confused isn't a strong enough word. Yeah. Baffled.
And everybody around you is baffled because they don't understand alcohol. That's why we always shake your hand. I just seen you yesterday. Why are you shaking my hand today? Because I'm glad you're here. Right? So, this is important. There is the obsession that somehow, someday they'll beat the game. That's not in association to drinking. Because we already agreed if I never took the first drink, right, it never set the terrible cycle in motion. So the physical part is left done. They're talking about the mental part now. And the obsession is us keeping ourselves sober based on our experience. So, right, there's the obsession that somehow, someday they'll beat the game. By what? Not taking the first drink. That I could be my own solution. Because if I don't take the first drink, I won't set the terrible cycle in motion. Now watch the following conversation of that. So they use the word malady and obsession in two different ways here. Right? This is the first time they've mentioned the malady. And this is the first time they've mentioned the obsession. The malady is in association with the main problem that centers in the mind, and the obsession is in association for us being our own solution. What makes us say that? Read on.
There is the obsession that somehow, someday, he will beat the game, but they often suspect they're down for the count. How true this is, few realize. In a vague way, their families and friends sense that these drinkers are abnormal. But everybody hopefully awaits the day when the sufferer will arouse himself from his lethargy and assert his power of will.
To do what?
Stop drinking.
Yeah, not take the first one.
Yeah.
But you're baffled. The people around you are baffled. They're all hoping for you, though. Remember, coming back to hey, everybody claps so happy for you, cheerlead and all that other stuff. But if they understand, they know you're in deep shit. You're in trouble. They'll start working with you right away or get somebody hooked. You come to my home group and you're a relapser, we get all over you without realizing we're all over you. Right? The tragic
truth is that if the man be a real alcoholic, the happy day may not arrive.
So what are they associating the real alcoholic with is the condition that centers in the mind. This thing that can't answer the riddle, this thing that has them acting against their own will, this thing that regardless of how they feel and the consequences and everything that they have to live for, they find themselves drinking again. Right? The tragic to be a real alcoholic, meaning having a condition in the mind. Right? Go ahead.
Yep. At a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail.
Previous page. Once a certain point is reached, little or nothing can be done for him. They build on these ideas. Now they're hammering it a little more closely, because if you're reading, they got your attention. Mm-hmm. Right? Well, what is this thing? Well, let's see.
The tragic situation has already arrived in practically every case long before it is suspected.
So look back over your drinking history now. Most people see the allergy. How many times did I say I'm going to change? I'm going to stop. I'm going to rearrange my life. How many times was the first time I said never again and I did it again? I was 15 years old. My first meeting in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was 16 through the intervention of other people. 11 years of trying to combat something that I didn't understand what I was up against. Join the army, join the gym, oh my God, all these things I did, always celebrated with another chip. So go back over your drinking career and see how well you've done being your solution, and how obsessed you have been with you being your own solution. How many people's relapsed here come back to AA and you tell us what you're going to do? You ever notice that? You have been unable to do it, but this time is going to be different because you mean it now, and I got acceptance, and I surrender, and I got all these things. You're batshit crazy. The only one that don't know it is you. Right? We see it, and that's why the more on fire you are, the more we clap for you when we see you coming back. Coming in hot, baby. Anyways, go over your drinking history and see what you do. Let's do the conclusion here.
Okay.
At a certain point, again, this timeline, at a certain point, page 24.
At a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail.
Now I'm in conflict with myself. The baffling feature. This
tragic situation has already arrived in practically every case long before it is suspected.
So everybody around you is seeing it before you see it. By the time you see it, it's too late. Right? Even sitting in meetings. Ollie, home come free. I think I'm safe. I'm sitting in a meeting. No, tick-tock. There's something at work. Something at work here. Okay, go ahead.
The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable, at certain times, to bring into the consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink.
Let's revisit this, what they're talking about here in squiggly writing. The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, again, right, have lost the power of choice in drink. Some people think they're talking about when they're drinking. That's not what they're talking about. We already agreed on page 22. If I never took the drink, I wouldn't set the terrible cycle of motion. So we're talking about the main problem that centers in the mind, something that places us behind human aid. The fact is most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes what? Practically non-existent. What aren't we able to do?
What's that?
What aren't we able to do? We are
unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago.
They didn't say all the time.
At certain times.
At certain times.
Yeah.
Right? This malady, the baffling feature, that means I got 99 no's and one yes, but I don't know when that yes comes up. Right? I don't know when that means there's something going on that I can't see, feel, and touch. Right? At certain times I do great. Like, hey, for 3 months the goose hung high. Things were fantastic. Over 360 meetings in 90 days after 11 years of in and out. I think I'm onto something here. 3-month chip in my pocket. No thought whatsoever. Remember with Bill's story? Somebody pushed my drink my way. I took it. Was I crazy? I began to wonder. Right? And
Yeah.
then his experience was get a bit sober, relapse. Get a bit sober, relapse. Why was he relapsed? Because he hadn't had a solution sufficient enough to bring about the change that the doctor talked about and witnessed in these people. Right? So they talk about here. Go ahead.
Cool. And it almost gives you a false sense of confidence, right? When I say no 15 times, I feel like I'm doing good. I got this now. And then that one time, at certain times, I don't have the power. I'm not able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. What did Bill say? Maybe I was making too big of a deal of this.
Yeah.
I went to town regularly. Because if you're looking for the obsession and you don't have it, then you think you're in safe ground, right? That's why when people describe it as this obsession, the idea that I could control and enjoy my drinking, well, that's a pre-step one condition. Mm-hmm. Right? They're not talking about the idea of controlling and enjoying our drinking. They're talking about the idea of why do I continue to start when I don't want to? Mm-hmm. That's a big difference between a person who thinks they can control and enjoy their drinking still in the development stage of alcoholism, right? And those of us who are fully in it once we've crossed this line, right? So how would we know if we cross it? We got to go back through our drinking history. When did this start happening? When did I find myself drinking when I said I wouldn't drink again? When did this start interfering with my responsibilities? When did this start interfering with my relationship? When did this start interfering with everything around me that I didn't see was interfering with? When did people start addressing my drinking before I was addressing my drinking? Which is hard. I was 15 when they did the intervention, 16 when I went through my first meeting. I thought, they lacked a sense of humor. That was the whole point. No, go ahead.
And that's the certain point that they're talking about. At a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. Right? At a certain point. Okay, we are without defense against the first drink. The almost certain consequences that follow taking even a glass of beer do not crowd into the mind to deter us.
Or near beer, or near wine, or near drunk. Non-alcoholic beers for non-alcoholics. Let's just put that out there, right? If you're still feeling comfortable drinking near beer, maybe you got some learning to do yet. But anyways, we'll leave that alone. Go ahead. I like the taste.
If these thoughts occur, they are hazy and readily supplanted with the old threadbare idea that this time we shall handle ourselves like other people. There is a complete failure of the kind of... Sorry, you want
go ahead. You might as well finish that.
There is a complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove.
So then, let's go to the bottom here. When this sort of thinking
is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid.
What sort of thinking? This malady, right? This loss of choice. This returning to something that I don't want to be doing and I'm doing again. This baffling feature, right? When this sort of thinking, the baffling feature, right? The inability to keep myself sober based on my experience or anybody else's experience. If your story can't keep you sober, neither can anybody else's. I've never went, I'm about to relapse without realizing I'm about to relapse and go, I remember what happened to Sam. I better not do this. Mm-hmm. No, so when we sit and we frankly emotional appeal to these newcomers, if their story isn't enough to keep them sober, neither is yours. You always hear people say, don't be like me. Well, how could they not be like you? You're describing the process of being convinced that I need to do something other than what I'm doing, right? If my experience was enough to stop other people from experiencing what they had to experience to come to the conclusion that they can't be their own solution anymore, then that's really it. We could raise the bottom, the rest of that, so people don't have to go as far as we do by explaining alcoholism, but nobody's going to save them from the fate that they have to discover on their own. Mm-hmm. Right? You have to have that step one experience. Until you have it, you'll continue to be your own solution. And there'll be intervals of maybe 3 months, maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years. But there will come a time where you'll be without defense against that first drink again because you don't understand alcoholism. You think you'll be able to see, feel, and touch it. And if you think that, you don't understand what you're up against. So the truth is, I don't know when it got removed. That's the truth through this process. Because I haven't drank since going through this. And I don't know when it's going to come back again. So I stay engaged in the recipe that keeps me neutral or the problem removed or in a daily reprieve. I don't depend on me to keep me sober. I still don't have a choice when it comes to the first drink. I've entered this contract with something greater than me that allows me to have a different experience than I was having, right? So go ahead.
Cool. So when this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid and unless locked up may die or go permanently insane. These stark and ugly facts have been confirmed by legions of alcoholics throughout history. But for the grace of God, there would have been thousands more convincing demonstrations. So many want to stop but cannot.
And that's within our own fellowship. They're baffled why they keep doing it, and it seems all these other people seem to be staying sober. I'm the only one, but maybe you're a little different than these other people. Maybe you need to actually do what's laid out in here to have the experience of those that put this together. Because most of us are hoping that, against hope, that we're not real alcoholics.
No.
Right? Because that means I don't really have to do this full commitment. I can pick and choose, like Bill said, to Christ I thought a great teacher. Some of his teachings I liked and the rest I disregarded. That's how most people want to do the program of recovery, right? I'll disregard everything. I like this, like that. Do the menu off the wall and achieve Burger King drive-through recovery. Right, I'll have a bit of acceptance with a bit of letting go, and we might as well throw in a turnover there with a bit of acceptance is the answer to all my problems, and $4.17 for dessert, right? So that don't work for people like us. That's why we don't like the idea, right? Okay, go ahead.
Totally. Here we go. So many want to stop but cannot. Top of page 25. There is a solution. Almost none of us like the self-searching.
Yeah, almost none of us. Do you have something else available? Is there a door number 3? Like, this is pretty dry. None of us like this idea. I've never met one in 37 years doing these studies. I've never met anybody who said, "Oh boy, what a great idea! When can I get started?" Is there somebody else here I can talk to? That's what they say, right? Or here comes that guy again. But guess who's the first person they call when they go through that stuff? Is people like us. Mm-hmm. Right? The people that were hoping against hope that they weren't like us or have to do what we have to do. But we're the first people they call. What a gift that is, right? You may not like me now, but you'll love me later. Right? It's okay. You don't have to. Most people say, "I didn't like you when I first met you." Of course you didn't. Right? And they go, "Why do you say that?" I says, "You were sick." I wouldn't like guys like me either, right? Yeah. Solution-based people, happy, joyous, and free. What an order. I can't go through with it. Okay, so there is a solution.
There is a solution. Almost none of us like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings, which the process requires for its successful consummation. But we saw that it really worked in others. And we had come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as we had been living it.
Yeah, the human condition, right? And what's always our go-to? Another drink. I mean, wouldn't that create a level of unmanageability? Mm-hmm. That's what they mean by unmanageable. If you can't stay sober, is your life going to start looking like crap? Your life's going to reflecting what you're doing, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. When therefore we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved.
Solved, not working on. Solved. If something's solved, are you to keep working on it?
No.
Solved. Doesn't exist. Because this is beyond our pay grade. That's what we're admitting to in step 1. This is beyond our pay grade. Right? If I'm left with this condition, I'm in serious trouble. They talked about that earlier, right? They talk about when this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid. Unless locked up, may die or go permanently insane. That's not good news.
No.
Right? That's step 1. So when you really, really do step 1 really good, you're looking for step 2. I've never met anybody that knows how to swim look for a life jacket in a pool. The only person looking for a life jacket is the person who's drowning. Yes, Bubba. Just let go. Surrender. No, I need help. I need some help. Is there somebody here that can help me, right? Yes, we have step 2. Yes, there's a solution to this. Thank God. Okay, go ahead.
When therefore we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved.
See that? Underline. Therefore, when we were approached with whom the problem had been solved, we wouldn't find our ass with both hands tied to it.
No.
That's why we carry this message. It didn't say go find it, because what you're looking for is not what we're offering. May sound kind of weird, but those who have been through this kind of, I didn't know this was what I needed to do. I didn't know this was the experience available to me. I didn't know this was what I was up against. Why didn't you know those? Because the people I was attracted to were the ones that made sense to me. Mm-hmm. The ones who were attracted to me were the ones that heard me share in a meeting. That's why we tell new people, keep sharing, we'll find you. Like, newcomer thinks, wow, that was one of the best talks I ever give. We guys who've been through said, okay, I'll get that one. I'll get that one. We home in on them and start walking with them. That was a great talk. That's how the best way to start any relationship in AA. That was a great talk. Can we go for coffee?
Yeah. I don't need any more tips.
There you go.
All right. There was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We have found much of heaven and have been rocketed into a 4th dimension of existence of which we had not even dreamed.
That's pretty wild, eh? Not even dreaming. Hadn't experienced beyond anything I could comprehend or explain. Right? But what I see in others may be available to me. But what we see and what's below the surface is 2 different things altogether. This internal thing is something that you have to experience for yourself to fully understand it. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we all do the show and shine. 5 minutes before the meeting, we put away the rope we've been weaving. Right? And all smiles and giggles. Anyways, go ahead.
Who does that? I was drawing some eyebrows on, and then I was looking at it. I was like, I better wipe some of those off. All right. The great fact is just this and nothing less, that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences which have revolutionized our whole attitude towards life, towards our fellows, and towards God's universe.
Revolutionized. That's an experience. Mm-hmm. When they talk about this experience here, none of it sounds like somewhat thrilled about it. It sounds like It sounds like this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right? It's like winning the lottery and explaining it to people. Yeah, right? You're having an experience that they can't have, but they watch you excited about it. What you have the ability to do is give them the winning numbers where they could have their own experience with winning the lottery. Right? Cool. It pays dividends on a daily basis.
Yeah. And look at how many things revolutionize our whole attitude towards life, towards our fellows, and towards God's universe. All things. The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous.
Not that I'm doing steps 10, 11, and 12 every day. No. I'm having an experience. My focus has shifted from working the steps to working the relationship. 2 different things altogether. Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm. He has commenced to accomplish those things for us which we could never do by ourselves.
Yeah. Who wants a list?
Start with the basic things. I go to work today.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. If you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe there is no middle of the road solution.
Were, not are. Mm-hmm. Were. The problem's been removed. They're no longer having. You hear people, I'm just as far from a drink as a new person. I hope not. I hope not. the person's still dealing with an affliction that I've recovered from. I hope I'm not exactly the same, because that's not very inspiring. If you want what I have, but you're going to suffer from it on a daily basis, come on in, jump in the car. You're going to wake up with you every morning. How do you feel about that? Untreated alcoholism. You'll be like, oh my God. Anyways,
Yeah.
I had a moment. I'm back.
We believe there is no middle of the road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible. And if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid.
Once we've passed in the region of this malady that we see, it's been there long before we realized it, but the consequences of it has been more frequent and more impactful, because we're still reeling from the other consequences, and our life is diminishing. Jobs, money, relationship, like our world's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and our liver is getting bigger, bigger, and bigger. Go ahead, right?
And had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, we had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could.
Step one. Because step one doesn't change when you know it and don't know it. You can do step one 100%. It doesn't change it, but it puts you in a position of looking for a solution for it. People give you the idea that once you do step one 100%, that you fall within this neutrality. Well, if that was the case, then there wouldn't be step two. You wouldn't need step two. Our solution to this dilemma, which we talked about previous on this page, right? There has to be an experience through a course of action, through a simple kit of tools laid at our feet. We need to go through a process, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. Until I have this experience, I'm in trouble. I've entered an act of providence.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, and the other, to accept spiritual help.
Which is outlined in step two, which is outlined up here. There is a solution, which is step two, right? And the outline here is the process outlined in step two, but the process is outlined from 3 to 12. Does that kind of make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
This we did because we honestly wanted to, and we were willing to make the effort.
So here we go. So why is this certain businessman here? Well, we're going to look at a couple things that we've been talking about that we need an example to. Right, here's the example of this guy who has the malady but doesn't fully understand the malady. Right? And he's going to talk about the obsession about fixing himself based on self-knowledge, which most people have. But if you don't fully have the step one experience, then it makes sense that you just need to try harder. Does that kind of make sense? So we're going to look at a guy who's obsessed with the idea of fixing himself and have the means to do it. Does that kind of make sense? This is the example that we read upon on page 23. There's the obsession that somehow, someday they'll beat the game. Let's see what that looks like in somebody's life who's afflicted with alcoholism, who hasn't had the step one experience yet, meaning conceded to their innermost selves that they were beyond human aid. They admit they have a problem, right? But not a problem that they can't fix. And our fellowship is filled with people like that. Why are they still like that? Because they haven't had the step one experience yet or been approached by those with whom the problem had been solved. They still have a misunderstanding, ignorant-based kind of idea on what the problem is, based on what they hear in meetings. Right? So what they're hearing in meetings and what's in the book is two different things. That's why a lot of people don't like the book.
Yeah.
Can you hand me the 12 and 12? It doesn't explain this stuff in the 12 and 12. That's why we like it. I like the 12 and 12. It doesn't explain any of this.
Totally. It's cool because if you've experienced these things, which so many of us have, when someone reads to you in the book where it says what this is, it's exciting. And I think the people that have a really, really hard time understanding this are people who haven't experienced it. But if you've truly experienced never, ever wanting to do it again and trying your best to keep yourself sober and you do it again, It's okay. That's what this is about. That's why there's the book. It's actually exciting. It should be talked about more. More people should be more excited about it, I think, because it's cool.
You think it was written for people who can't stay sober and reflective with alcoholism. You think it was designed for relapsers, to find a solution to a dilemma that they can't understand. Look at this guy. This is most of us without realizing it until we get to that process of being 12-stepped, right? Go ahead.
Okay. Roland Hazard. A certain American businessman had ability, good sense, and high character.
That's me. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
A character.
For years, he had floundered from one sanitarium to another. Oh yeah, it is you.
Or one treatment center, one halfway house, one situation to another, seeking a solution to his problem. Right? Yeah. One meeting, one home group, one this, something. The pursuit of trying to find a solution to something that he hasn't been able to alter on their own. Right? Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. He had consulted the best-known American psychiatrists. Then he had gone to Europe, placing himself in the care of the celebrated physician, the psychiatrist Dr. Young, who prescribed for him. Though experience had made him skeptical, he finished his treatment with unusual confidence. His physical and mental condition were unusually good. Above all, he believed he had acquired such a profound knowledge of the inner workings of his mind.
Okay, hold it there for a second. Who else does this sound like?
Me?
Well, yeah, us, but it sounds like Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the first time we went to treatment? Surely this was the answer to no, he left feeling really good, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Right? The goose hunt. Yeah, surely this was the answer. Right? Self-knowledge, hidden springs. The doctor told me, even though he was foolish, now understanding myself now. Does that sound like a theme in our lives? Yeah. I said to myself, what do you think? I think you're going to be okay. That was close.
Yeah. Go ahead. Totally. Okay, profound knowledge of the inner workings of his mind and its hidden springs. The relapse was unthinkable.
Relapse, returning to an undesirable state. Mm-hmm. No longer wanting to have the same experience I've been having. You hear people say, relapse isn't a part of my story. Then you don't got one. Mm-hmm. Right? Because if you were able to keep yourself sober given good reason, you'd be in a 12 and 12 study tonight, not a big book study.
Yeah.
Right? You need a different message. Yes? If you can keep yourself sober, do you need to do this, what's outlined in here? Or have this understanding? No. So this is designed for people who are like us. How do I know if I'm of this type? That's what we're going to discover here. What type of alcoholic are you? Are you of the type that's part of the collective understanding or not yet? Go ahead.
Okay. Nevertheless, he was drunk in a short time. More baffling still, he could give himself no satisfactory explanation for his fall.
Yeah, so when you ask people, why did you get drunk? Don't ask them that. They don't know. You don't know. Because the illness is still present. They haven't done a course of action sufficient enough for them to recover, to have the problem removed. That's why they keep relapsing. That's why they say, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start, because this thing is cunning, baffling, and powerful. You think you no longer have it anymore until you find yourself with a drink in your hand again, wondering how that happened.
Crazy. Right? So he returned to this doctor whom he admired and asked point blank why he could not recover. He wished above all things to regain self-control. He seemed quite rational and well-balanced with respect to other problems.
That's us. Okay.
Yeah, he had no
okay, go ahead.
whatever over alcohol. Why was this? He begged the doctor to tell him the whole truth, and he got it. In the doctor's judgment, he was utterly hopeless. He could never regain his position in society, and he would have to place himself under lock and key or hire a bodyguard if he expected to live long. That was the great physician's opinion.
So it kind of really, again, going with the bottom of page 24. Less locked up will go permanently stand or die, right? So this seems to be the general opinion of most doctors, yes?
Yeah.
So they're reconfirming this, right? Okay, go ahead.
But this man still lives and is a free man. He does not need a bodyguard, nor is he confined. He can go anywhere on this earth where other free men may go without disaster, provided he remains willing to maintain a certain simple attitude.
What the attitude is the ingredients is that we're going to learn that they talked about previous. They really outline it in step 5, and they outline it later. Is acquiring humility, honesty, and fearlessness. Right, the basis of our recovery is humility based. It's the first thing we need to acquire, and the first thing we lose before going back to our previous lives. Go ahead.
That's why some of us have a hard time getting this program at first.
Yeah.
The tough lesson to learn. All right. Some of our alcoholic readers may think they can do without spiritual help.
See? That's the hope. Let's not get carried away on this stuff. But if your life's on the line, okay, what is this stuff that you have to offer, right? 2 different positions. He's of the type that he thought it could be his own solution. He hasn't had the step 1 experience yet. He's asking someone to explain why he's having this experience. He's about to have the step 1 experience. It doesn't change his experience, but it sheds light on why it is he's doing what he's doing, which enables him to have a step 1 experience. Watch the thinking apparatus here. Why it's so important to work with people who've been through this, right? Like in studies like this, or individuals that are book-based to help you navigate through the entrapments of your own mind. Watch this. This happens to every single person in order to pursue our solution that's being offered here in the book, wherever you are. Okay, go ahead.
Well, let us tell you the rest of the conversation a friend had with this doctor. The doctor said, "You have the mind of a chronic alcoholic."
So we know what that means. The mind is you have this malady that places you behind human aid. We can't explain it, but you have this mind set that even though you're successful with all these other things, remember the doctor talked about that with Bill. Bill was a good businessman of good earning potential, but he had this condition that didn't allow him to live the life he was living. He's finding out, why can't I live the life I desire for? I have the money for and the means for, but I'm not having the experience that I'm hoping on. Why am I having this experience? Because you have the mind of a chronic alcoholic, a repeat offender, relapsing. Right? Go ahead.
You have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. I have never seen one single case recover where that state of mind existed to the extent that it does in you.
The truth about the illness. So let's see what that does to him, because he'd never had the truth about it before. He was under the impression that he could do something about it, and he had all the means at his disposal. This is, every single one of us has to have this moment. It's called the step 1 experience. He's sober, but he's about to have the step 1 experience. And what's that? Been told the truth, right, of what this illness is, and see his reaction to it.
Yep. I have never seen one single case recover where that state of mind existed to the extent that it does in you. Our friend felt as though the gates of hell had closed on him with a clang. He said to the doctor, "Is there no exception?"
So that's it, the clang, right? With a clang. Now he's realizing his predicament based on his experience. He's kind of like, oh shit, man, I'm in trouble here. Right? Is there a life jacket for people like me? Is there something for people like me? I don't want this to be my fate. I don't want to die an alcoholic death. Is there some different experience for me? Right?
Yes, replied the doctor, there is. Exceptions to cases such as yours have been occurring since early times. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are phenomena. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements.
Again, an unexplainable event. Singular phenomena and phenomenon, right? Plural mean more than one. This is singular, right? Phenomenon, is that the right way, or is it the other way around?
I don't know.
I think it's one of the phenomena means singular. Yes, phenomenon is
Ray will know.
Yeah, plural. He's shaking his head. Yes. So it's an unexplainable event that happens and people have witnessed, and it's been happening. He'll explain this. They appear to be
in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements.
what we outlined on page 25, which is step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than itself could restore society. Through a course of action, this is what it looks like. We'll get more into that. This is what it looks like when it's happened, and this is what's available. Right?
Ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men, are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them.
So read the spiritual appendix this week to get a better understanding what they're talking about. We're going to cover it later, but if you want a better understanding of what they're referring to, read the spiritual appendix in the back of the book. It really explains this stuff, right? And it kind of eases your mind if your mind's taken over, what this thing looks like and how they're explaining. It kind of makes it more palatable, right? When you're kind of, because most people when they're new kind of get this becomes a stumbling block, is they're thinking what they think it means instead of seeing what it means, right? Go ahead.
In fact, I've been trying to produce some such emotional rearrangement within you.
And Dr. Silkworth talked about that, right? With Bill and people like us. They've been trying, but the synthetic like lies outside their synthetic knowledge of application. How you like that? 50-cent word. Boy, I think my tongue got stuck between my teeth there for a second. But go ahead.
In fact, with many individuals, the methods which I have employed are successful, but I have never been successful with an alcoholic of your description.
And what's that description again? The malady. What's the description that these doctors, there's certain types of us that they just don't get it. Why can't we get this, what they're getting? We got together and said, well, we seem to be different than all these other people that seem to get their methods and and have a different experience by doing what they do, but us types seem to be a little beyond human aid. Well, why is that? We don't know why. That at a certain point, but we seem to have this condition. What condition? A malady, an unexplainable thing that's present. We see it's present. We see how it afflicts us and other people like us, but we don't know how to explain it. So a malady is a condition that's present, but they don't know the full understanding or comprehension. We see there's something wrong, but we don't fully know how to explain it. So how do they explain it? They explain it as a phenomenon. But this is what it looks like for those who are afflicted with it. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Then you're in the right group.
They can't explain it, so they give us examples of it. They show us what it looks like over and over through this book. They'll give us different case studies on it. Upon hearing this, our friend was somewhat relieved.
See how fast that went? He went from feeling like the gates of hell slammed in on him. He was offered some form of solution. His brain piped up. So, oh, good, that was close. Nothing's changed, but he's taken over again. Right? He's taken over again. Oh, good. What's the obsession? This idea that I could formulate or game plan or process that I could base on. So he's feeling good again, right? Go ahead.
Well, I was somewhat relieved, for he reflected that. Is that where I am? Yeah.
Yep.
After all, he was a good church member. This hope, however, was destroyed by the doctors telling him that while his religious convictions were very good, in his case, they did not spell the necessary vital spiritual experience.
Ready for this? His understanding and his experience isn't enough to produce what we're offering. You need to understand what we're talking about before you can pursue our solution. You could choose your own conception of our solution out of the collective understanding. Remember, they started this off with. We have a way out which we can absolutely agree. But if you're not agreeing, then you don't understand what we're talking about. Because if you understood what we're talking about, then you would agree.
Totally.
Right? That's why we have a whole chapter on we agnostics to help you navigate through your thinking to see what we're talking about in regards to the pursuit of this solution of what we mean by a power greater than myself and how to get access to it that we all agree on. And the spiritual appendix in the back of the book says all our members, With hardly an exception have tapped in an inner reserve. Not some of our members. All of our members have had the same experience. Why? Because they took the same course of action. Why? Because that's our solution as presented in this book, based on the problem also lined out here. Does that kind of make sense? So you need to understand what we mean by step one, what we mean by step two, what we mean by power greater than ourselves, and what we pursued to have this solution take place. So your understanding, that's why we don't tell you before we explain this thing, go with your own conception, because it's not going to work. Anyway, I'm done. Go ahead.
Nice job. Here was a terrible dilemma in which our friend found himself.
Dilemma, yes.
When he had the extraordinary experience which we have already told you made him a free man. We in turn sought the same escape with all the desperation of drowning men. What seemed at first a flimsy reed has proved to be the loving and powerful hand of God. A new life has been given us, or if you prefer, a design for living that really works.
So let's go. Here's where people start talking about their belief and their experience, like I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Christian. The book talks about that. What we talk about is our fundamental understanding of a power greater than ourselves. That terminology is put in place for a reason, right? And here's where they talk, which I think is one of the coolest things in the book. We think it no concern. Go ahead.
Bottom of page
Yep.
28. We think it no concern of ours what religious bodies our members identify themselves with as individuals. This should be an entirely personal affair, with each one decides for himself in the light of past associations or his present choice.
So it's none of our business. It doesn't care. You go in a meeting and deter people. This, I got this, that. We don't care. Do you have a bit fundamental understanding of a power greater than you, and have you tapped into that? Yes, that's our common language, right? Other than that, you're doing a really disservice to the people around you, including yourself, without knowing it. Okay, go ahead.
Not all of us join religious bodies, but most of us favor such memberships. In the following chapter, there appears an explanation of alcoholism as we understand it.
As who understands it?
We
understand. They use that a lot, right? Step 3, made a decision. Turn our will and life over care God as we understand. Step 11, as we understand collectively. People go, oh no, it's as I understand. That doesn't say that. You need to have our understanding to pursue our solution, to have our experience. How you describe that with somebody else, like the guys who took me through this were Christians. But they never laid that on me. They never laid their belief system on me to rob me of the experience that I needed to have. That's where they ended up, somewhere down the road through their pursuit. But in order for me to start, I had a starting point. So they offered me what was offered to them so I can make my start and discover where I needed to go as I pursued this thing. Anyways, that looks like it's almost time. What do you think about that? So further on, let's go. Let's not hold the suspense up. Page 29.
Further on, next page, 29. Further on, clear-cut directions are given showing how we recovered.
So you hear people say the first 3 steps are not, here we go. Nothing changes. You may feel good about it. You may feel good about the idea. Now, you hear people say, I do steps 1, 2, and 3 every day. Well, what you're saying is you do nothing. Right? You haven't had the experience of the rest of the steps, because step 3 is a decision to have an experience. If you haven't had that experience yet, then you're stuck in 1, 2, and 3, and you don't understand 1, 2, and 3 if you think 1, 2, and 3 are keeping you sober. It doesn't make any sense. Well, I admit to the problem, I admit to the solution, and I know I need to make a decision. And that's keeping you sober. Yes, then you're not of our type. Right? And it's going to take another relapse to get your attention to realize you better we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from when?
From the very start.
Very start. Anyways, live long and prosperous. May the force be with you. What's a great meditative prayer to close on as the basis of good sobriety? What would you say, Katie? God. Grant me the serenity.
Oh, you want me to do it?
Oh, yeah. Lay it on us, sister.
Grant me the serenity to accept
the things that cannot change.
the courage to change the things that can, and the
wisdom
wisdom
to know the difference.
That way I know I'm guaranteed at least you prayed once today. Love you, live long and prosperous. If you have any questions, we'll take them here during this part.